Okay, this video is going to take you through what we did in class today, week 11, day 1, regarding nested if-else structure. And so you should have the questions, right, as we're showing right here, and then we should also have the example. The important thing right now is that one thing that might be good for you to do is to pause the video and read the notes about what's going to be happening here, because basically what's going to happen is that I'm not going to necessarily teach you exactly what a nested if-else structure is, but you're going to kind of figure it out as you answer these questions. So I'd suggest strongly that you read these notes here, and then answer these 4 questions, and then turn the video back on, and then I'm going to go through these questions, and then after that, then I'll have you go through the questions B, and then we'll go through those answers. So go ahead and check the notes and do questions A 1 through 4 there. Okay, the first thing here is that it says, question 1, it says use line numbers to indicate which conditional statements make up the outer if-else structure. Now notice in here I talked about if-else structures are made up of 2 things, conditional statements and clauses. We said that conditional statements examples would be if, else if, and else. And so the question is, use line numbers to indicate which conditional statements make up the outer if-else structure. And so in this one, the what you'd want to do is the very first if statement is going to be that first conditional, and this is the outer nested if-else structure, or the outer if-else structure, because this is what you come to first. And so if you just follow along on the same indentation, then it'll take you to the else if conditional, and then you keep following along here and it'll take you to the else conditional. So these are the 3 conditionals that make up the if-else, the outer if-else structure. The next question was to indicate all the blocks of code that represent clauses of the outer if-else structure. And we want to use line numbers that include the braces. And so the blocks of code. And so what happens here then is this is the if statement, and so right here is the opening brace for the if clause, and then if you follow the indentation down, then this will be the closing brace for the if clause. So this right here is the outer if clause right here. And then here's else if, here's that opening brace, the closing brace. So this is the else if clause. And then of course down here then is the else clause. This is all for the outer if-else structure. Okay, so let's look at the next question. The next question is, the first nested if-else structure goes from what line to what line? All right, so in here, if this is the outer if-else, then these right here must be the inner or the nested if-else. So this if-else structure is nested inside the if clause. Okay, and so the first nested if-else structure goes from line 3 to line, I'll do it like this, line 3 to this curly brace here to 14. The next nested if-else structure goes from line 19, because it starts with an if statement, and ends with the last curly brace, and so goes to 30. So from 19 to 30. Okay, now with that understanding of what these are, this being the if clause, else if clause, this being the nested if else, it's inside the if clause. This one is inside the else if clause. Based on that, then go on to the questions B and see if you can answer those, and then come back to the video and see what those answers are. Okay, so let's look at questions B. Number 1, I hope that you did read the, it's important, I should have told you this before, but it's important that, of course, that you read this paragraph. Just don't go to number 1 without reading what this says, and so I hope you did that. So let's go ahead and take a look. So if color is assigned red and the number is assigned 1, what would the compiler do with this? So we start, of course, at the if statement, and red does not equal blue, so the entire if clause is going to be ignored. And so because we're dealing with the outer if, the next thing it does is it goes to the else if statement. So if this is false, if the Boolean expression is false, it's going to go to the else if statement. Now red does equal red. So now it's going to go in and do this, is going to execute the else if clause. Well, the else if clause just happens to be an if else structure. And the important thing here is just to consider this if else structure as if it's the only piece of program or code in the entire program. And so don't be looking anywhere else, because that's where some people get confused. Just treat this as if it's all by itself. And so it says if number equals 1. Well, the number was 1, so this if statement, the Boolean expression is true, so it's going to do the if clause. It's going to ignore the else if clause and the else clause. Okay, because this is the only thing we're looking at here in the program, is just this if else structure. So the if structure then is, or the if clause is executed. So you win 10 puppies is printed. Now, it ignored the if clause on the outside, it executed the else if, and the else clause of the outer if is ignored. Okay, so let's take a look at 2. 2 is blue and 2. So now, does blue equal blue? Well, yes it does. And so now it's going to go in here and do the if clause. That means the else if clause is going to be ignored and the else clause is going to be ignored. So does 2 equal 1? Well, nope. So that if clause in the nested if else is ignored. And then does 2 equal 2? Yes. So it's going to execute the else if clause, so it's going to print you in 20 kittens, and it's going to ignore the else clause of the nested if else. All right, so you can see all these things that are ignored. Let's go on to number 3. So number 3 is red with a capital R and 2. So what happens is that, of course, red does not equal blue, so the whole if clause is ignored. Now here it says, so it goes to else if, and is red equal to red, and since this is equals, that means it's case sensitive, and so this is capital, this is not capital, therefore they are not equal. And so this else if clause is ignored, and so else has to be executed. So this else clause is then executed. So for instance, invalid entry tells what the blue, what the choices should be. All right, let's take a look at the last one. And on this one, it's blue and 5. Now, of course, blue equals blue, so it's going to ignore else if and else. And so the number is 5. So does 5 equal 1? Nope. So if clause is ignored, does 5 equal 2? No. Else if is ignored. So therefore, it executes the line 13. All right. That is how that works.